The forest was supposed to be silent that night, but silence died the moment the first gunshot cracked through the mist. Lieutenant Claire Donovan dropped behind a fallen tree, her breath sharp and shallow, mud streaked across her face like war paint. The flashlights were getting closer, too close. They were hunting her, and they thought they already had her cornered. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're rewatching from. I love knowing who's listening. Claire pressed her trembling hand to her thigh. Warm blood seeped through her fingers. The bullet had grazed her, but pain was a luxury she couldn't afford. Not now. Somewhere in the darkness, 3 mercenaries moved like shadows with rifles raised. They didn't know who she was. They just knew she'd overheard too much. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly imagine, was that Claire wasn't just another target. She was Navy SEAL, call sign Valkyrie, and the moment they fired, they made the deadliest mistake of their lives. The rain started to fall slow at first, then relentless. It hissed on the leaves, masking the sound of Claire's steadying breath. She counted their steps. 1, 2, 3. The click of a safety switch echoed faintly, and her heart steadied. She had less than 10 seconds before they flanked her position. Her thoughts flickered to her brother, Ethan, also a SEAL, missing in action 6 months ago. The mission tonight had been about finding him, or at least what was left of him. But now, trapped in enemy territory, it was her own survival hanging by a thread. She thought she'd never see him again. She was wrong. The mercenaries moved in, whispering to one another in a language she didn't understand. One voice was calm, confident, the kind that enjoyed the kill. "She's bleeding out," he said. "We finish this and get paid." Claire's jaw tightened. They fired again. The bark above her exploded. She rolled left, snatched a fallen rifle, and without hesitation, squeezed the trigger twice. The first man fell before he even hit the ground. The other 2 froze. Then, from the ridge above, a low rhythmic tap echoed through the rain. 3 short bursts. SEAL code. Her pulse surged. Couldn't be Eagle One. Visual on Valkyrie came a faint voice through her earpiece, static cutting every other word. Hold position. Extraction inbound. Her throat tightened. That voice was Ethan. But how? The mercenaries opened fire again, spraying blindly into the fog. Bullets tore through bark and leaves, but the forest was no longer quiet. It was alive. Boots pounding, mud splashing, coordinated movements slicing through chaos. From the darkness, 6 silhouettes emerged, night vision goggles glowing faint green. SEALs moved like a tide, silent but unstoppable. They didn't shout. They didn't hesitate. They struck with precision, a whisper of motion, a flash of steel, the heavy thud of finality. The mercenaries never stood a chance. When the gunfire ceased, the rain was the only sound left. Claire rose slowly, her body trembling from adrenaline and exhaustion. And there, stepping through the mist, was Ethan, his uniform soaked, his face older, harder, but his eyes unmistakable. She wanted to speak, but words broke apart before they reached her lips. He gave a faint, almost broken smile. "Took you long enough to find me, sis?" The moment held fragile, suspended between disbelief and relief, and she stumbled forward and he caught her, holding her like he'd done when they were kids. The forest, moments ago, a place of death, now felt like sacred ground. But the war wasn't over yet. Sharp cracks split the air. One last mercenary, barely conscious, raised his gun. Time seemed to slow. Claire saw the flash, heard the bullet scream through the rain, but before it could reach her, Ethan was already moving. He tackled her to the ground, rolled, and fired back in a single fluid motion. The bullet missed her by an inch. His didn't. Silence again. Only this time, it was peace. Ethan leaned back, breathing hard, his voice ragged. "Still react faster than bullets, huh?" Claire laughed, a sound half sobbed, half relief. Always did. As dawn broke, the forest turned gold. The team gathered, forming a quiet circle as the helicopter descended. Claire looked at the men, tired, scarred, but united by something deeper than blood. The kind of brotherhood born not from comfort, but from chaos. When the helicopter lifted, she glanced down at the forest below, where she'd nearly died, and where she'd found the only person she'd ever feared losing. She thought about the mercenaries, their greed, their certainty. And how in the end it wasn't the bullets that won. It was loyalty. Because courage doesn't vanish. It waits in silence, and when the moment comes, it strikes faster than fear itself. And somewhere in that fading echo of gunfire and rain, she realized something simple yet eternal, that family, whether bound by blood or battle, is what brings us home. So if this story moved you, if it reminded you that even in the darkest places, light fights back, make sure you hit subscribe. Stories like this deserve to be heard. And tell me, what would you risk everything for? Because kindness doesn't vanish, it waits, and it finds its way back. And somewhere in the forest where bullets once ruled, a sister's heartbeat reminded the world, silence isn't always surrender. Sometimes it's the calm before the rescue.